Good evening. Welcome to About That. My name is Dasha Kelly Hamilton, and I am going to be your co host because we're all in this together for a conversation about pronouns. So, About That is a public and an open conversation series that uses a piece of art as a way to frame one of the conversations that we're all having anyway. And we have a crew of conversation Kickstarters who are waiting in the green room who are going to get this conversation started. So our art piece for this edition of About That is a poetry collection from Stephanie Burt. And we'll have a chance to hear from her and her work towards the middle of the program. But again, About That is a way to figure out what are the things that we're talking about and to hear some folks' ideas about their experience with the discussion. So about that pronoun, the etiquette, the conversation around gender and identity, the polite discussions that we have when we're together, and the curious questions we don't get answers to when we separate. We're going to bring them all together today. So the first thing we're going to do with the About That series is we invite again some conversation Kickstarters to come and literally do just that, get the conversation started. And our first guest that we're going to bring to the screen is Jamila Dawn. Jamila, how are you?
Hello, I am doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. Now, fantastic. There are probably some things that beat fantastic, but that's not a bad way to start your weekend.
No, not at all. Not at all. I've been keeping up with my self-care regimen, and so I'm really good about that. And I'm studying to get some certifications in healthcare. So my time during quarantine, um, it's good. It's mostly good. It's
Mostly,
good.
well, as good as a quarantine can be, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, tell us. Let's go ahead and get right into this. I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit about who you are and then tell us what are your thoughts about that pronoun.
Excellent. So my name is, again, everyone is a Jamila Dawn, and identify as a non-binary trans woman. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them. And so my thoughts on really the etiquette, the resistance, and surrounding pronouns. So the etiquette, right? We start with the most. We start with the most obvious, right? Respecting people's identities, and um, but I would like to go further than that and say that we should not just respect someone's identity, but we should hopefully embrace it. So when you are, talking to me and or you're talking about me, say, I'm not in the room using she and her. Um, I think it's very important for people to not only just use those pronouns for correct for out of respect, but to embrace it hopefully, to understand what you are really saying when you are saying, say, my pronouns, she, her, they, them, so that not just for the sake of being honest about it, but the way our pronouns kind of represent our place in the world, our foothold in the world. And with our pronouns, there are a lot of needs that are addressed. There's a story that's told. Um, there's a story that's told. And so using someone's pronouns, you're telling that story. Even if it's not the full story, you're telling a part of the story that you know. And you're also saying that I've embraced that. So I'll say what the etiquette is, and then understanding that we all have an implicit bias. Like we were all taught, from a young age. I think of my best friend's kids right now who use my pronouns, but they're still confused because they're like, well, she still looks like a boy. One of them, uh, Jack says all the time. They're learning, but they are kind of unlearning with me an implicit bias that they have around gender and gender roles. So yeah, I think that would be my first thought, is to not just use their pronouns, but to hopefully believe and embrace them, because you have to realize you're telling that person's story.
I love that as a invitation, because asking someone to embrace, I mean, just that word is wide open arms. It's bringing someone close, and all those things that word literally defines. And do you find that it often is it's more of a pacification, which is different from embracing? So hearing the word
Right.
embrace is really is sticking with me, that you're asking or recommending something more than just honoring a request.
Right. Right. I've learned that, over actually recently, I would say, because there's a difference between when my close friend, my best friend, speaks of me to others. There's a difference between the way he speaks of me towards others, and then people who are less understanding of trans identity,
Mhm.
um, and the way they use it. Um, the pronoun, and they often and I see it in a difference in he never slips. He never slips because he has embraced my existence. But those that are using it simply as a request, requests can be forgotten. We can drop the ball on promises. Like, I promise to use your right pronouns. Oops, I slipped. Well,
Mhm.
that's because largely, for the most part, people have not done the work to
We lost your
the
sound.
understanding. Oh, there we are. Sorry about that.
No worries. If you can
Um,
backtrack, you said people haven't done the work to.
to fully accept my identity. They do it out of respect, but they haven't done the work to embrace my story. So
Sure.
it's easy for them to forget. Um,
I in inviting folks to add into this conversation, and what we're going to do also for folks that are watching as a format, we're inviting and we're putting all of these ingredients into this gumbo, and we're going to come back at the end together and stir it up. So I'm going to throw something into this gumbo, which is the voice of that person who's looking at you, who forgets, who doesn't want to forget, but they really don't get it. Right.
right,
So this is a space where they really don't get it. So it's wanting to, like you said, respect your story. I love that you're talking. This is telling who I and where I am in the world. And then there's some folks who are like, what was it, the quote? Why do I have to play along? Right.
right,
So this is something you believe. Why do I have to believe that thing? If I don't. So I wonder, between the folks who are truly, they want to do right, but I don't remember, and you have folks who just willfully won't, because it's asking a lot of our collective consciousness. So with that in mind, I want to ask, keep you on a minute or two more. How would you respond to that? How would you get that person to understand embracing your identity, if that makes
I
sense?
I definitely would talk about. So it's really hard because I admit I live in a bubble, right? I live in a bubble where many of the folks I know are are practice or study feminist theory. But for those that don't, so it's hard for me to say. So for them, I would talk about how, like, womanhood is not monolithic. I would say that there's many different women of different sizes, different races, different under different conditions, different abilities, um, and I'm simply just one. I'm simply a grain of sand on the beach of womanhood, right?
Check
And
that out.
that's what I generally explain.
Uh-huh.
Like, yes, I need to take medications. I need to take medications, specifically, estrogen, for example,
Mm-hmm.
to feminize my look. However, I am not the only one. There are women who are cisgender that need the same treatment as well. I was born. I explained to them that I was born with the desire to give birth, but I can't. You know, And I know there's other women that I know that are assigned female at birth, that also are born without the ability to potentially not give children. So I say that I'm just a grain in the sand of womanhood.
Okay. That's excellent. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to have you chill back in the green room and all that plush furniture in our virtual studio.
Yeah.
In my imagination, that's what it looks like.
Yes.
Hold on, let me put you back there. But that is an idea of you, of Jamila being a grain of sand on this beach of womanhood. And in my mind, when you said that, when I first went to visit Alaska and was able to go to the beach, and the beach it's not sand. There's small rocks, which actually is what sand is. So it was definitely a jolt to the bottom of my feet, first of all, but it was definitely broadening. Oh, so this is possible. And you all still come and hang out at this beach like it's a regular beach. And guess what? It is a regular beach. So I'm going to bring a beachy lovely to the screen. We're going to ask Lex Allen to join us in this conversation. Lex, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, I'm glad that you are here, and I appreciate you making time. So you're jetting from one computer tab to the next. So you kind of came from a whole nother studio.
Yeah.
This time you didn't have to run all the way across town. So
yeah.
There's a silver lining.
Yes, we got some good stuff done today, so that's good.
So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us, who are you? What's you about?
I am Lex. I go by they, them pronouns. And yeah, this conversation, it's been really funny because a lot of my friends, we've been talking about pronouns because we just got into the conversation, started to like fully embrace me. Not that they weren't before, but it's more on a level of like, they like get me now. So I find them like correcting themselves, or one of the big things that comes across is like, dude, the word dude. They're just like, you know how I mean it, but like, wait, is that okay? So they're asking questions now, like, is that okay for me to say that? Like, what do you want to be called? Usually I just say like, for me, my name is Lex. So like, they're like, well, like you're they, them. I was like, don't introduce me as they, like that's who I inwardly, but like you call me Lex. Like, so it's those little, setting those like little boundaries within my friend groups and with the world, just because I express myself daily as very, very queer. And I feel like an infinity loop of masculine and feminine energy because I don't feel like the energy belongs to a gender. I feel like my perfect example would be Grace Jones and Prince. Prince is like very feminine, but he has like that masculine, like, the undertones in his music. And then you have Grace Jones, which is a very masculine, very like domineering presence, but still she had those like tinges, like, she still had those tinges of femininity. So for me, I try and do on a daily basis to allow myself to express that, whatever I feel. And there'll be like days where I'm expressing myself so hard like that like, friends will be like, oh girl, or like, cause the feminine energy is like takes over like the energy that you portray. And then there are days where I'm just like really masculine, like representing in my expression and my gender expression. So I feel like I find myself like I understand at times like it can be confusing to people, but it doesn't give them room to put you in that role in their mind, that they're in their psyche. That's what they're creating for you. Like, it's like, no, it's still they, them. It's call me Lex, and just respect that.
I can imagine for the people that know you and love you in your intimate circle, because they want to do right by you and right for you. So on one hand, I can see the folks who are bless their hearts just trying really, really super hard.
Yeah.
And then the folks who aren't for a lot of different reasons. So tell us a little, just broader, maybe how
broader.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I just don't allow people to do that. I don't allow people to pigeonhole me or say, like you're a guy, like you're obviously you have the part. Like, it was like, that doesn't matter. And it's one thing about like giving people room, like to express themselves or try to open up to you, but it's also, I find it's not my job to make you comfortable with saying, like, if you want to do the work and you really care, you're gonna research. Like, it's not my job to like every person I meet, like, okay, like this XYZ is like, no, if you really want to learn and you really care about me as a person, like take the time to research, take the time to like become a bit more understanding. Like I feel like that anything about it is just like understand someone and accept them as they are. So when I'm out in public or, you know, I'm out at a restaurant or something and, you know, you get the looks when I'm, you know, I'm rocking my high heels or like I'm baseball cap and like some like Adidas on, you know, it's just, I still am giving them room to approach, giving them room to ask questions. And like, yeah, I'm not going to give you a whole history lesson. Like, I'm not going to shame you for not understanding me, but I will encourage lightly and sometimes aggressively, like, no, like you can do the work yourself, because I feel like it puts a weight on us. Like, why is my like expression, why is my gender, why are my pronouns so much work for you to understand when you can just do it? Yeah, it's really random.
No, we like random. And what would that, so when you're listening to you, it's a similar advice or experience as a person of color. So
Yeah.
I do know a lot of things about race and oppression, and you know what? So does Google. So
Right.
someone had a great quote that said, "Yeah, did you ask Google first?
Right.
Then we can talk
Seriously.
about." But what would that? So there's the work of doing the research and having some names at the tip of one's tongue, knowing
Right.
things that have happened. But even in knowing that,
Mm-hmm.
have you found that helps people really relate? So like Jamila said, embracing, and you said get it. If they don't get it or don't want to get it.
Yes, they don't want to get it. Like it. Yeah. Oh God, this is gonna be good. If they don't like, say that again. Sorry, I just like lost my train of thought. Say that one more time.
So it's not getting the information, but then there's also not wanting to get it.
Yeah, because it's like their world that they live in. Like, you know, just like you're shattering walls and barriers. So it's like, but I have one friend that like, you know, identifies like transgender, but they like allow me. I was like, then like, no. I was like, no, you have to like this, I accept them wholeheartedly. Like to say what Jamila says, like you have to be willing to accept a person. Like, cause I'm not going to come to be like, well, I don't believe you. You know, I don't like, I don't trust it. Like, no, like you don't need to trust it because I know who I am at the core of my being. I know who I am. And like, frankly, I just don't want people around me that don't want to get it or try to force their belief on what is or what was, or what I should say, what was. Like, this is what it is. Like, you're thinking about what was. And like, because I went on a journey to experience what was. Enjoy it, because you can stay back there. But like me, the work that I've done inwardly and outwardly to reaffirm myself to the world, like I'm not changing it, and I'm not here to make you comfortable. I always say I wasn't sent here to make y'all comfortable. Like that's not my job to make you comfortable.
Oh, and wow, and I took the what was referencing just society, not just what was in terms of your identity.
Yeah.
For you, but we all are in a whole new space and whole new world.
Yeah.
So the idea that one can opt out of this, like, and say that they don't want to follow along.
Yeah.
Like, say something, and it is, and again, I'm taking on this role. I invited some folks. I need someone who just truly doesn't get it and talk about what you don't get. Bueller. So no one wants to be
Muller.
No one wants to be on the internet as the asshole. So I embody their questions. In my personal space, I understand it, right? And I respect it, and don't know. So the etiquette and the description of this discussion don't always, because I'm going to slip up, and not because I don't want to, but so I'm going to toss out a name.
Okay.
Rachel Dolezal. So just let that sit there. I know.
Now be resurrected.
resurrected. So, and I'm just putting that in the same basket of, you know, the criticism of how she chose and received and presented and all of it. And it was, there's a lot more layers to that. I absolutely understand it. But to your point of, this is 1,000% how I not just see myself, but who and how I am. And so we all are working from the same set of rules, or we're not. We're all, you know, making an effort to understand and expand what is, or we're not. I think so. With Rachel, it was really easy. No, I'm sorry, you are not a Black woman.
Yeah, like,
and period. So so I understand it's not as concrete as that, but I throw that in with the same debate of people telling you what works and what's allowed, and you just can't decide that you. So I know it's more than that. So talk a little bit about that.
Because it's more. I feel like it's more. Oh God. Oof. Oh God.
Say all the things.
It's who you're born as. Like you're born. It's who you are. You're born like that. Like I knew at a very young age that like I was definitely on a spectrum of like femininity, like just my mannerisms, the way I talked, and how I just literally felt inside. Like I'd never like felt like okay with like just having to wear like boy clothes or like why can't I wear this blouse? Like why? Because like you're a boy, like you boys don't. I was like Prince, like like that's like I was like, but like it's like who I am on the inside, like inside and outside. But I wasn't allowed to be myself because I had all these social norms. Like I can't just be like I'm white. Like I'm like it's not like that easy. It's like you are this, like you are born with it, and society pushes you down. Like it makes you suppress. It's like a suppressant. Like just like that's for girls. Like well shit. Maybe I'm a girl today. Like I look like, but then like growing up and like have access to information and like feeling like you're not alone. Like no, like other people feel like this. Other people are like me. Like, and it's okay to be me. And so I think that having the access, like I didn't have access, like I didn't know what I was feeling. Like I didn't know. I just didn't know. I was just like, oh, it's just like boy, girl. Like those are your two options. And I was like, somebody lying. Like, nah, this is like somebody is like, I was like, no, I know me. Like, I know the me inside. Like, I know this. Like, and I need to express it. And like, that's why, like, I found myself through my music. It was really through my music and like really having a backing, like with my crew. And one day I was like, I'm gonna wear like heels on stage, and they were like, okay, like if that's like who you are, like what you want to be doing, like we support you. And so it's like having that like support just allowed me to like blossom. Like I feel like a lotus flower.
Lotus flower. Okay.
Just a lotus flower. Yeah.
I'm going to bring another lotus flower to the screen and bring it back when we have a chance to talk with everybody. So next, our lotus flower coming to the screen. I'm going to ask Miss, Alida, Cardos, Whaley to make their way to the screen. How are you?
Hey, Dasha, I'm doing well.
So I want to get a sense of how your day has been so far.
It's been good. A lot of feelings, and also got to work in the garden, planting some seeds and supporting some seedlings and soaking up the sun.
That's definitely that's always a bomb, even when you don't know that there's something ailing you. So just having some fresh air and being and having your hands in stuff. So I'm glad that you had that day. So the feelings, and my goodness, don't they show up?
Yeah.
Tell them to go sit over there. They're just like, we
gotta feel the feelings. We gotta feel the feelings.
And it is something of a lot of how much time and how many ways we've been taught not to. So I appreciate that you're taking some time, spending time with those feelings. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you have to say about that pronoun.
Thank you. Thank you to Jamila and Lex for what y'all have shared. I've been over here. I don't know if Dasha can't hear us, but yeah, I've been over here making my noises, sending affirmations. So my name is Alida. My pronouns are they, them. In Spanish, my pronouns are ella. I also go by we, fam, sib. Y'all, like pronouns there's all the pronouns in the world. Like we need to decolonize the gender binary and this idea that there's only two sets of pronouns. So I invite y'all to do that. I am a gender queer, gender non-binary, gender fluid, spiritual being. And I'm coming from the north side of Milwaukee, or how I like to honor these lands is using one of their traditional names, which is Milwaukee, which means the good land. And I honor these lands that have raised me, that are traditional homelands of Ho-Chunk, Potawatomi, and Menominee relatives, and Black liberator lands. And I've been taking some notes of things that have been coming to mind after listening to Jamila and Lex. And there's so much. There's so much. Like, yeah, we could talk for an hour, and there's still so much forever. And some things that I wanted to share, wanted to put out there for us to, work with, talk about, is like this word, decolonizing. And what does that mean? What does it acknowledge? Right. So for me, like I can share that I didn't have access to language that honored my myself, my gender identity, existence, like my queerness, until I was an adult. Until after I went to college, had the privilege to go to college, and really within the last 5 years. And I'm 30. And I remember being a young person and really identifying, like, I guess I was like, okay, this word is okay. The word tomboy. And throughout my life, whenever there's been a need to check a box of a binary or being labeled as a certain gender by other people as like a woman, or a girl, it never felt good. It never felt right. It never felt fully honoring me. But at those moments, I didn't have the language to even name myself. And also, like we are transformational beings. So honoring that, we may evolve and use new words that we were using that 2 weeks ago, but now we're not, because we've grown more into ourselves. And yeah. And so I wanted to also put into our conversation, into our what we're cooking here, is about gender binaries, right? Like that's from colonization, y'all. Like our Black, Indigenous, like our brown, our people of color, like our people, our ancestors have a different way, of seeing gender than the binary that was brought over here by European colonizers, right? And like how that was enforced to uphold patriarchy, right, and white supremacy. And a lot of us still know about those ways of having a third gender, or multiple genders, 5 genders, and some of those words. Some of us still have those words that are part of our lineage too. And English, right? This is our colonial language, right? And Spanish too is a colonial language. So there's no limit to, like, being able to decolonize, and shed, and go deeper. Another thing that I wanted to share was about like this series of coming out, and how that has looked for me, like as a person who's come into naming myself and sharing that with others as like an adult. It started with like sharing with chosen fam, right? And a lot of those chosen fam, like Lex was saying, and Jamila, like they got it, like they've done the work, like they hear you say what pronouns are your pronouns, and they're with it, and that has not been the case, for all the people that I've like come out to, right? So like friends or family, and there's like folks that I haven't yet shared with because it hasn't felt safe to be able to do that. And there is a whole lot of labor that goes into when you're going to share parts of your identity. If that other person can't receive you, can't hold you in a good way, if they need a lot of education, then that's calling on you to do emotional and educational labor, which takes a toll on our mental health, just to exist, right? And just to be honored by other relatives.
When you call it a labor, it's definitely more than an inconvenience. That's even different from work. I mean, I know it's the same thing, but I go to birthing, and the labor means a different depth of work. How do you, and And then do you let go of someone who can't see that all that, and it's not new, but the language for them is new. How do you lose people that way?
I think that like I feel like it's also been shared before I started speaking, right, about people who like when they care about you, when you care about other people, you want to show that you care, right? And so you want to call them how they call themselves, and you want to see them how they see themselves. And for some folks, it takes more decolonizing, right, than others. And some people may not be in that place yet in their lives to be able to see and honor you, and that can hurt us, right? And we know, the things that can lead to, and that how that takes a toll, right, on our spiritual, on our mental health, on our physical health, and that can lead to some really like to losing folks, right? Because they're who take their lives, right? Because existing in this patriarchy, white cis heteropatriarchy, is a lot.
It's a lot. Even for the white cis folks, it's a lot. This human is a lot. I'm going to have you go join Lex on our fancy furniture, and I'll bring you back at the end when we all get a chance to talk together. And our last conversation, Kickstarter, is Christine Muller making her way to the stage. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm really well. So we talked before. We've got lovely brown friends that are hanging out with us as well, and it's been a nice, smooth day. So have you been bustling, zooming? Have you had a chance to catch your breath today?
Well, I've been today was another work day, so another day in the salt mines, if you will. But glad to be here and just ready to talk about that gender.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about you and tell us what you think about that.
All right. Well, my name is Christine, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs, and I find gender to be a journey. I was late to the transition. I didn't start transition officially until like 2.5 years ago. So there was a lot of introspective self-battling to figure out exactly who I was and who I am. And so I think that what's important, what I always like to tell people is that pronouns are kind of a journey for us, but for everyone else around us as well. And that's okay, because some people, as Alida and Jamila and Lex have said, everyone is different, and there's a spectrum of gender. If you meet one person who's trans, you meet one person who's trans. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own experiences. Everyone has their own opinions, thoughts, and identities, and they all should be respected. Gender is, it's like somebody's name. You wouldn't want to call somebody by the wrong name. You want to make sure that you honor and respect their whole being. And I think what I've noticed is that people are willing to try if you allow them to, and people still make mistakes. But what I've done with my interactions is that I've just kept on, I've allowed everyone that I've known to still be a part of my life. I'm very privileged and very fortunate for that, but it took a long time. And for me, I think that is something that I definitely wanted to add, because some people, it takes them maybe a year or two or few to get around and get on board with your true gender. That certainly has been the case for me. I think about my one friend over in Michigan, who's a bit different political ideology than I am, but he eventually got on board with accepting me as a trans woman and accepting me as my true self. But it took him a while. And I think what I've realized is what I did is that I respected him as more of a friend and focused more on him being a person just like me. And I think by doing that allowed him to realize that hey, I'm still the same person that I always was. I'm just on estrogen now, and I go by she, her, hers. and I have a new name, but that I really still have the same personality. And I think that is just something that I feel needs to be said, because I think there's a lot of the people who do not want to accept trans folk for who we are, forget that we are humans just like everybody else. So that's my 2 cents.
25 cents, easy. 25 cents, easy. And I especially appreciate the story of having someone, because for him, he's not going to say that you're the same person until he figures out that you are made of all the same stuff, right? So the space where you are, and you're still figuring out not so much who you are, so to arrive at that, and it's a whole nother set of tasks and labor to decide how and who you get to exist moving forward.
Exactly. Like it's still, my journey, and I get to determine who I am, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me who I can and can't be. But in that same journey, I recognize they're on it with me as well, and there's going to be some highs and some lows. Another example, if I may, I think about my dad. I was driving with him in Seattle one time, and he mentions to me about my transition, and he's like, well, I'm very supportive of your transition, but forgive me if I call you Christopher, my dead name, because I've known you for 28 years. So change is hard, and change takes time. And he's made the effort. But again, I'm very privileged and fortunate enough to have that. There's a lot of people that I know who aren't as privileged and aren't as fortunate. And as Alida said, there are people who are not in the safest zones to just come out and transition. And so it's a very that's why I like to always describe it as a journey, and the journey is different for everyone, in that there is no right or wrong way. Everyone goes at the pace that they feel works for them and as the safest for them.
Okay, most excellent. I'm going to have you chill in the green room, and I'm going to have everyone give a thought to one word when we come back. Lex made a comment was talking about the 2 options that we all were given, and how he knew at a very early age, I'm going by he specifically, when the young version of the him had options. Existing in the they realizes their whole self. So imagining the young people who have these models of what's possible, but also maybe nervous because everyone's not embracing that possible just yet. So we'll have those questions about finding this space that is honoring your natural selves, and gotta ask the question. I gotta ask a question because I'm representing all the people. We got to ask a question about sex because folks are confused. I know. But first, we are going to hear from Stephanie Burt. Stephanie Burt is a literary critic and a poet and a professor of English at Harvard University. And her book, Advice from the Lights, has been selected this year as a big read, which means that largely library systems across the country are selecting this book for people to read and have various conversations about. So Stephanie is traveling and doing tours, kind of traveling, I know, pandemic. So we are going to have her join us by a prepared video. This is a conversation that she had at the Miami Book Festival. So hold on while I try to do something fancy.
Does it matter how we perceive you as a person or how we read your poetry? Yes and no. I would like my poems to speak to you as a reader if you encounter one of them in a magazine, or if your best friend takes a photo of a page and then tweets the page, where you have no idea who I am and know nothing else about it. In a way, that's the ideal first encounter with a poem or with a poet. Now, I wouldn't mind if having had that encounter, you out there in Videoland went and read more of my work and liked enough of it that you wanted to learn about me. And you would learn that I'm a translator from Washington, D.C., who now teaches at an institution in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's been very good to me. And I used to live in England. I used to live in Minnesota. I care about a lot of rock bands that nobody else cares about, comic books. Things like that. You learn about me, and that's wonderful. And at this point in my life, and this wasn't always true, while I'm still quite protective of the privacy of my partner and our family members, my wife and our kids, there's very little that's just about me that I'm unwilling to share under the right circumstances. I'm happy to be in, the phrase open book is the wrong phrase here. We all have things that are private, but I am happy to have people like my work enough that they want to learn more about me, and I'm quite aware that because of who I am and what year it is, that is also a useful process for people like me who are perhaps, for example, coming out as trans. Which doesn't mean that they all or that we all have to follow my model. I'm quite anxious that people not treat me as the model. I think all of us are. But I'm flattered and weirded out to be taken as one among many examples and to be asked for advice. No, I can't always give it. So as we just finished in Trans Awareness Week, has your identity shaped or influenced your work more than ever recently? So being out and not just having a lot of people know I feel like a girl inside, but actually doing social and medical transition and being a woman in public all the time when I walk out the door and get on the bus. I'm happier, I'm a bit different. It's probably influenced the poetry that I want to write. But we'll see, that's going to be the next book. And I'm certainly working on a whole bunch of poems, some of which have no trans content that I'm aware of at all, that I hope will be in the next book, but that will be a few years. Advice from the Lights was entirely written in between my coming out as trans, that is writing about it in prose and saying, I feel like a girl inside, and presenting as a woman in public. I started doing that before I finished the oldest poem in that book. And the book was finished. I finished the newest poem in that book before saying, this non-binary thing, I don't need to do this anymore. There are people who are really deeply non-binary for real, that's who they are, but I was trying to be that, and I'm not, I'm a woman, let's do this, and doing a full social transition, and not trying to appear in, not ever being a guy anymore. So that's 2017 for me, but the Advice from the Lights reflects the 5-year period from the beginning to the end of the decisions I've made about coming out as a trans woman as an adult. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is fun. It's fun.
So this is going to be bizarre from me as a poet, not as a poet, the poet laureate on top of that. We're going to shut down before the poem because I'm more and more excited about bringing all of you back to have this conversation. So we're going to have everyone come out of the green room, join us on stage. We'll have a chance to actually hear Stephanie close out with her poem at the end. Hello and thank you and hi.
Hey.
Hello.
Woo. So we're decolonizing, we are respecting, we're embracing, we are not self-battling. It's a lot of things, and there's individual stories, right? And then, like you said, one grain of sand, all the ways to approach this life. And Stephanie shared some thoughts about social transition. And Alida said we are all transformational beings. So what do we what is that advice? So she talked about not wanting to be the one to give advice all the time, and like Lex said, look it up, do your research before you give it to me. But you will be asked those questions. You will be given the chance or challenge to educate folks. And you don't want to be the model, but for some folks, like your friend from Michigan, Christine, you are the model. That's a lot of pressure. How do you manage that, and how do you, all those pieces, and some of you, all those pieces, so how do you go from here? And someone's typing, I think, maybe? Or is it?
I mean, I think setting healthy boundaries, you have to protect your energy. And I love that line of I don't want to be the model. And you can choose not to be. It's all about setting healthy boundaries with the people around you. I don't know. I don't know why that line just resonated with me so hard. Because we can be as private as we want. I don't have to be your teacher. Or if I want to be your teacher, I can open up to you. Like I said, open up, because we still have lives. We still have family members. We still want to protect ourselves and protect those around us. So I feel when we're asked have to be the model transgender person, or the model they, them, or in people's eyes, you don't have to subscribe to it. And I just have really healthy boundaries with people. I'm I don't feel like explaining myself to you, because I'm living in front of you. This is me right here. I'm living, I'm in the flesh, and I'm a person, you're a person. And if you are that intrigued by me, like she said, learn about me, learn my work, learn who I am as a person. We got the internet, click. Go and be look. So yeah, I don't know.
What are some other things you heard today?
What?
I was asking everybody, what are some other things that you heard that you want to comment on? I know, so much.
I know.
I was loaded it.
Right. Well, I was going to say on that, on learning, on whether teaching or not, there was a time I did a lot of teaching myself about myself as a young kid. I was obsessed with looking up white papers to okay, oh my God, what is a trans woman? What does this mean? As a little kid, because I needed to validate who I was. And that's a lot of energy. That is a lot of energy to do. And then once I've learned to accept myself, which I didn't really learn to accept myself until later in life, at the age of 30, I decided, so that first year I came out, I was doing the act of teaching, of answering questions and answering questions and answering questions and answering questions. And then first I got tagged by it, and then I realized that I don't have to answer questions to teach. I just have to live. And I just have to live. And if you want to learn, simply witness my living day to day. Something that I did, something that I did that she stated was, well, she's a woman. I believe she said she was binary trans woman.
Having a little bit of internet issues. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you all hear me? Is it? Okay. Is that she thought she thought maybe she was non-binary, but realized no, I'm just a trans woman, and I want to get away from manliness as much as possible, which is something that I'm not. I wish there was a language. I wish, as Alida said, decolonizing. I want to find out what my ancestors used for someone like me that's non-binary and trans femme. But she said something very honest, and she's like, I am a trans woman. I'm not non-binary. And as we learn, as we adopt new languages, not adopt new language. Well, I guess, yes, we adopt new languages to try and define humanity, especially when it comes to gender. There is this kind of this journey, this questioning, this journey, I think Christine mentioned, this journey that we're on as far as trying to understand ourselves. So, I like that she's nicer. She's nicer than I am in some ways. In some ways, I have lost people. Like her friend, I think he was in Ohio. Her friend is
Michigan, actually.
Michigan. You know, I do give grace to people, but I only give so much grace because I can only afford to give so much grace. And I lost a friend of mine of 13 years because he was not trying to get it, and he was not trying to get it. And but I've learned, you know, I can't give so much grace. Like if you're not there yet today, you might be there tomorrow. I'll see you then. You know, I just, you know. So those are some of my thoughts from what she said.
Isn't it crazy you have to like lose people to gain like step into like your true self? It's like, dang, I know it hurt this much, but I'm happy for it. Like
right.
Because I don't like I don't need that like the what if energy around me. Just like, or the I love you if you're can you not do this like around people? Like, no, I'm about to rock these stilettos. I don't care if like they your bros, like, look, I better get these shoes, catch these heels. Look, you know, like because I feel like a lot of us, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but let me know if you like shrinking yourself to fit. And like, now I'm just like, here we are. Like, like get with it. Like, we're moving around. And I was like, it hurts in like when it happens. But after you're just like, man, I'm really glad that I let that go. Because then it's less of you having to explain yourself. It's less of you pressure off of your shoulders and trying to get someone to get you. Like, what is there to get? Like, I'm here. But yeah, that's so good.
There's
this isn't wine.
So some wine. I got some tea up here, some herbal tea.
I'm helping myself to limoncello, so
there's something that I'm trying to find my way of how to say.
So one of the things I do, the one thing I personally steer away from is yes, we're all human. We all are human, and humans make mistakes. People make mistakes, but mistakes, we cannot ignore the harm that certain mistakes cause, you know, and the type of mistake. And so misgendering someone, not even constantly, but simply just misgendering them and your way of relating to them, it's harmful. And there's a lot of harm. And for as much as I'm a person that makes mistakes. I am, you know, we are marginalized people. And so the mistakes that other people cause, it causes harm to us politically, and it causes harm to us existentially. Right? We see how the Republicans did everything they could to stop us from living a quality of life. We couldn't even use the bathroom in public, right? And so I try not to minimize us by saying we're all people and we're all due to make mistakes. Well, mistakes hurt for us, and honestly, for the most part, those mistakes can be life threatening, especially for trans. When we look at the trans women that are killed by men, largely by cisgender men, that are afraid of their attraction to us or are afraid of what we stand for. So I am a little bit more. That's why I say she's nicer than me, because I'm like, yes, we're all people, but we all have a responsibility. We have a very strong responsibility to get it right, because that getting it right saves life. You know?
Right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yes. So I wanted to share. I feel like right now will make sense. Like how we're talking about saving lives, and it's not even about like saving.
I think I can't hear Alida.
No?
Alida, are you on mute? Sorry.
I don't know. You can't hear me.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. But just about honoring each other as relatives. Because we should, because we need to, and I feel like I I want to bring up the way that we introduce and talk about gender to our young people, to our little elders. That's how we call over here. So I have like a 7.5 and then a 2.5 year young, and those are our little elders, bringing so much wisdom. And you know, like we're all adults having this conversation, right? And I feel like, you know, if we can, not us, but, you know, society, like do a better job of talking about gender, right? And pronouns and like expression, like gender expression, and just like being better humans, being better relatives. Like if we can do that with our young people, then we wouldn't have these adults, right, growing up to be these super closed-minded, ignorant people inflicting violence. You know, and over here with our little elders, like since they so Lay, who is 7.5, who uses they, she, he pronouns, and they may introduce their pronouns depending on the space that they're in, right? What feels safe to them. Lay has been, like, we've been talking about, you know, gender and pronouns, gender expression, like since they were born, you know, and having those conversations at 3 years old. And like, it's so important that folks understand, like, you can't know somebody's gender by looking at them, right? And it also, like, it does not matter the body parts that people have under their clothing. And we are who we say we are. And, you know, the whole like gendering of babies, right? Like when people will see a baby and they'll be like, oh, is this a girl or a boy? I feel like what they're really trying to ask is like, what pronouns do you use? I'm trying to, you know, call your baby as you would, but it's always in that binary, right? Is that a girl or a boy? And then they might even go into the, you know, the limited binary ways of imposing gender, of saying like, oh, he's gonna be a heartbreaker, you know, like she's gonna be a sweetie, like getting all the whatever, going right into talking about cis heteronormative like relationships. But I just wanted to add that to the conversation, you know, of like taking it to how we talk about gender with young people. And yeah, like having grown up with a limited, personally, like a limited, you know, like spectrum. It was no spectrum, it was a binary. But what would it have been like for us, you know, if we could have grown up with that, seeing that full spectrum? And I was checking out your website, Lex. Like, I love all your photos and what you said like a little bit ago, just about living, you know. I'm trying to live.
Right,
I'm trying to live too. I see you living so beautifully.
Very out loud. We laugh. But like, I love what you said about like the kids. Like, I was at my godmother's and her little son Everett, or my Auntie Deanna's house, but like it shook me off guard, because I was just like, wait, what did he just say? So we're like sitting there, he was like, we're talking about a music video, I played him some new songs, and he was like, oh yeah, this is good. He was like, I have a vision for the video. It can either be with a girl, a boy, or just you. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, you know, it's like, I know, you like guys. But it's like so crazy, because my God, they do a really good job of just like talking to kids and like letting them. I feel like people think talking to children is gonna like, oh my God, they're talking about the gaydom. Like, oh no, like my kid, like no, like it's education. It eliminates like ignorance. It gives them a broader spectrum of the world, like you said. And I feel like the generation now, at least like the people I surround myself with, or even now, like the generation now is a bit more understanding, and like they're just all about expressing themselves. And it was like look, but you know, those are some of the privileged ones, and some can't do that. Some you know, they gotta spread it. Look, I was spreading in my room by myself with some heels on until I got the courage to walk outside the door and do it. And it was very like freeing. I was like, I felt so I was like, this is me. Like, yeah, rocking kinky boots at least twice a week. Like, let's go. And strutted down the street like,
do it.
Hey. And I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing them. You like them? Good. Okay, because I love them. You know, it's just like being so unapologetically yourself that people have no choice but to respect who you are and how you stand in yourself. Like you gonna get with it to move around. Like, I don't know. Bye. But it took a lot. It was a journey to get to where I am. and I feel like we're all around the same age. I'm like 30 soon. But I feel like, you know, you become more of yourself when you're, you know, you're just like, dang, like, let's shed that layer, rip this bandage off. Like, all right, this is gonna suck a little bit. Like, okay, I have to, you know, introduce people to the new me that I've always been, but it's gonna be new to you. It's like, let me unfold in front of you. This is like, there it is. Like, hey, there you go. Oh my God, freaking goofy.
In real life, Lex, we all want a pair of kinky boots.
Hey, look, I'll send you the website. I will link you. Look.
Oh, don't presume I don't have my pair. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. Well.
We're all in this, you know, this is the journey language is true, and it's appropriate for everyone. And a lot of people, you know, all of us were given the same script. So to Alida's comment, this truth that not ancient, like beginning of time, and we don't have a connection. It's still that ancient is still who and how we are, but from the language that was given to us and the thoughts that were given to us, you have so many generations that don't know those things that are optional. Christine, but I'm mindful of the time, so I don't have anything to do. I'm free to hang out. But I want to be mindful of the hour, and I want to ask Christine if you have something else you want to share. And the reason I said we're going to do the sex thing, because you made a comment about, so I know you like boys. And also what I know I have learned is the choosing of the pronoun has nothing to do with who you choose to get naked with. And that is a part that I would imagine that people find most confusing in terms of, I don't know what to do or what to say and how and separating those hopefully will be helpful. So about the sex and pronoun, but first, Christine, is there something else you wanted to share or anything that's lingering with you?
I just wanted to say that you know, I think everyone here had just so much amazing stuff to say, and I think in the end it just feels great to actually live our authentic selves. Because it's just, you know, living two lives is, in my opinion, one of the worst things imaginable. When you're not allowed to like walk out in a pair of heels, or like if you want to, or if you want to walk out and however you want to present. And I think it once you're able to actually get the courage, garner enough courage, and just go out of your door of your home, and actually just be able to walk down in public and not give a damn about what people think or say or how they look at you. That's a very freeing and empowering feeling. And it took me, I mean, I'm 30. It took me 30 years to get to that point. So, and I'm still learning. So that's all I wanted to add.
And the truth of it too is the person who is under tall had to take 30 years to get there. The person who is larger or smaller or a buster or red hairier or all of those things, we all are figuring out how to live in this skin, right? So if someone could, and again, this is not an invitation to be confessional about your personal sex lives, be clear, I'm not asking you that, but explaining or giving a distinction between your choices as pronouns and how they by definition don't have anything to do with your sexual life. So just helping people wrap their minds around that maybe could be helpful. Someone could kind of, what's your favorite way to explain that?
Like Miss Whaley said, don't worry about who I'm looking, just matter it ain't yours. Like, look.
Until I'm calling you, don't worry about it.
It's like, just like you, like who I'm attracted to, like, does it, and how I have sex, does that, like, that's your fantasy you going in your head. Like, look, you deal with it. You play with it as much as you want to. Whatever you desire, what you're thinking, maybe you're right. But it's not, like, for me, that's like private. Like, that's my private life. Like, and it should, like, that's a boundary you shouldn't cross. Like, well, like, how do you, like, you know, you take your clothes off and then you get in bed with the person you like. It's not it's not like rocket science, you know? It's like, but how do you, the same way, maybe better than what you do, you know? Like, it's just like no one's business. I personally, for myself, like, it's personal. It's like I wouldn't ask like you, like, you know, like, oh, so like, what, you know, what y'all, I mean, maybe I would, but it's not going to be in like, it's not in a prying matter. It's like, Maybe like girlfriend, but friend talk, like, and I just don't think that it's appropriate. I just be like, you had sex ed, right? Like, I don't
remember that. And you're right. It's 1,000% inappropriate, but because we've been taught there are only two options, like Alida said, is colonizer mindset, and we've also been taught that gender and sexuality and all those things they're related, but they're not the same. And without that, it's not even sophisticated, but without that appreciation, it gets muddy. It does get muddy. So it's helpful to make sure we can say that out loud in this gumbo that we've been brewing.
Can I add something?
Please.
So I want to add,
Jamila.
Jamila, 1 second. I know you can't hear Alida, but 1 second. You can't hear Alida, so you're unintentionally interrupting her. So 1 second. Go ahead, Alida.
Okay. So I was gonna just share and definitely like Google, right? But so there's these different words that mean different things, right? So like there's like assigned sex at birth, right? So if you are born at a hospital, right, there's gonna be a doctor person who is looking at one external sexual characteristic, which is like just one element of what defines so-called sex, and they're gonna assign a sex, right? Also, people get born at home and there's no doctor there saying no nothing, right? But so that is also acknowledging like sex isn't just sex, like that's assigned, like it's because somebody said that. What are words anyways? What are these things that we say? So sex, right? And like sexual characteristics are also like there's levels of chromosomes and like hormones and secondary sexual characteristics and all that stuff. But just because probably this cis white heterosexual doctor in the hospital looked at one organ, like, and they said, oh, it's this sex, write it on this paper, whatever, and then it's also different of a gender identity, right? And then there's also a difference of a gender expression. Then there's also a difference of your pronouns. Then it's also a difference of who you feel attracted to, right? So all of these things are separate things that sometimes, are in relationship or whatever. But you could definitely be a cisgender woman and your pronouns are they, so wanted to add that.
7th grade class didn't cover all of this by any means.
It didn't.
So confused. I want to thank all of you for being so vulnerable. And at the same time, it's not bravery. At the same time, it's not superhero dumb. You woke up. You woke up like this and made this space for y'all to actually to walk that walk and give us an opportunity to have these open conversations. So we all know folks who aren't able or willing or safe to have these open conversations. So I can definitely appreciate surrounding you. You're in a bubble, Jamila, surrounding yourself with people who get you, but know that there are folks who are going to be better because of how you've chosen to walk in your authentic selves, and give them the space to ask questions and tell them no when you don't feel like answering it. Jamila, you had another comment you wanted to share before we close out?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, for me it got muddy with how I have to still present work, have to unlearn the kind of princess, the Disney story of the princess going after the hyper masculine prince. So that was my sex life, is unlearning all of that. And so as a gender is a journey, so is unlearning certain things around gender and sexuality.
Oh my goodness, that is the way we're going to end this.
You just helped me. I did not. You just really helped me, Jamila. I was like,
for unlearning is also a journey. The same way we had that bumper sticker that says that adulthood is basically getting recovery from your childhood. There you go. Unlearning is all of our journey. So I am going to put all of you back in the green room, and I'm going to make sure that we bring back Miss Stephanie Burt, share the piece that she was sharing at the end of this. And we're going to close out the conversation this way. Again, mindful of the time. We're a little bit over, but it's never over when you're being enlightened and enriched and you're able to celebrate some humans that are doing really human great stuff. And our next About That conversation will be on Tuesday, the 26th. 7th, I believe that is. And it's going to be about that baby daddy, a conversation about non-custodial parents, gender bias against fathers, and the culture of co-parenting, and all the work we still have to do. So thank you for being a part of this conversation about that pronoun. And we're going to close out with a final poem from Stephanie Burt. Yes, one more fancy thing.
Gymnastic, Stephanie. I am in at least two sorts of race with my body, where with means both riding in and by means of and against, viewing it as a competitor. What can I get myself to learn to do and to do as soon as possible in the competitive moment or minute or day or month or calendar year before it changes? Take the willingness or the supposedly fearless patience, whatever that means, or the ability away. Practice, 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 practice. Look at me, practice. Don't look at me. Head over heels over head over heels, and practice, practice. Whether any of the people watching me who have not done the things I do know what I can do or what I have been trying to do or how hard it can be or how easy it seemed before I knew what I was doing, not that I know what I am doing now. Practice beyond the interminable practice might be the effortless practice, or apparently effortless practice, or something like joy. Only my peers understand me if they do. Maybe I have no peers. To prepare for years, to concentrate for the entirety of life, short as it seems to adults, to see eternity as a warm-up and a walk-through for a minute and a half, to be and to show what you are, over and steady, 2 hurdles, flick, flack. This is what you had practiced, practice, practice, to have become someone who has to be only what you show the world. That's what you are. So soon it will be what you were. The rotation, the rounded arc, the stick that casual fans and families know, the return from infinite vertical space into human time. What is amazing to amateurs has to become second nature. No marvel. A stopwatch to me. 2 hurdles. Flick-flack. This is what you had practiced, practice, practice. 2 folds more. There used to always be a balance beam in my dreams, and the sensation of turning over and over, the pale blue and all too exciting wish never to land, to have become someone who has to be only what you show the world. That's what you are. So soon it will be what you were.